Hello, everyone. How does one that spent time on welfare as a child grow up to be financially successful enough to be able to splurge on a phone game like Empires and Puzzles and own this beautiful home in the Caribbean? Was it the lottery, an inheritance, an insanely high paying job? No, it was not any of these. It was as simple as learning to become financially fluent and sound through basic principles that anyone can apply. Just like I enjoy sharing knowledge that I have learned while playing Empires and Puzzles, I also enjoy sharing knowledge on becoming financially strong through multiple income streams and smart investments. In addition to my books about Empires and Puzzles, one can also find my book, Build $1 Million Net Worth While Achieving Perfect Credit on Amazon. In this book, I detail all the secrets of my financial success. These strategies help me get ahead. Maybe they can help you too. Look for the link in the description below. Welcome to another Empires and Puzzles books video. Today I want to tackle the question about the future of Empires and Puzzles. Is the game dying or is the game flatlining? Now you might notice that there isn't an option, is the game growing, and that's because I'm certain the game is not growing. Now these numbers I'm talking about are numbers of players. So I'm going to show some actual data which will clearly indicate that the game is not growing. So the debate today, and I'm interested in your feedback on the interpretation of the data that I'm about to show you. Is the game dying or is it flatlining? Now, please watch to the end of the video because I'm going to also give one shocking number that's real world data that I cannot explain. It would be fantastic if Small Giant would happen to chime in and explain what happened with this last number that I'm going to show, or last set of numbers. But the question today is, who is playing this game? How many people are out there playing? Now, Small Giant isn't going to hand us a sheet and give us a daily log of how many people logged in and play. So we are left to rely on data that we can mine from the game, from playing and looking around. And there's actually a surprising amount of things we can do to find out how many people are playing this game. The most common one that people or other players I've seen reference in the forums and on Facebook and YouTube and places is the weekly tournament. All right. If you're in the top 1%, if you're at that cusp of 1% and 5%, that'll give you an idea of how many players are playing. Now, that is a number that I've been monitoring for the better part of 2 years, year and a half-ish, basically since early fall of 2019. And that cusp between top 1% loot and top 5% loot in the weekly raid tournaments is always around 15,000 players. So at 1%, that means there's 1.5 million players that have been playing this game, at least logging in and participating in the weekly tournament. Is that actually the real number of players that are playing, though? Absolutely not. It's much larger, and I'll get to that in a little bit, and I'll explain how I figured out that number. But right now, let's just talk about the 1.5 million that are playing. So we get that number from the weekly tournaments, and that has been consistent, give or take a little bit. I haven't documented that to minutia, but there's not been a huge swing in that. Right around 14,000, 15,000, below 16,000, you're going to have that cusp flip over from 1% to 5%. So any given week for the last year and a half plus, over 1.5 million players have logged into the weekly tournament and put an effort in. Now, I was thinking, where else can we come up with game data? Well, we have ranking and other things. So my wife's account, as you'll see here, didn't really participate in the Ninja Tower. She just completed one floor of the Ninja Tower back in October. And you can see here that there was still just about almost 10 hours left in the event, but I would presume, I'd hypothesize, that most players that were going to put any effort into this tower, at least beyond the first floor, probably were already in with 10 hours left on a 3-4 day event. So she only completed one floor, and you can see where her ranking was at 1.57 million, which seems to confirm that 1.5 million people are actively engaged in the things going on in Empires and Puzzles. So on some level, I guess that can be a reassuring number, right? 1.5 million, that's been consistent for a year and a half. It's not grown, but that number has not declined. But I hear people talk about, oh, people are leaving the game. Everybody's, every time there's a new update or change, and everybody's upset about it until they realize what the impact of the change is. Everybody's talking about how many people are leaving the game and people are leaving in droves, blah, blah, blah. But is that really the case? This is the only data point that we've seemingly had, but I'm quite excited to share that. Oh, where are we at? June? So about uh, 8, 9 months ago, I found a new data point that gives a much more clear number of daily participants in Empires and Puzzles. And I found this number because I look at a lot of data in the game and I bounce around a little bit. And as regular viewers will know, I go out merking. So I'm in all kinds of alliances here and there, even just for a moment. And over the last few months, many of you have seen me pop in and out of your alliance. And I may have been merking. But the reality is, I'm also farming for data and just looking for information that can tell me more about what is actually going on with the game. So last October, I realized there was an interesting data point that can be deconstructed to figure out what's going on with the game. And it is what I call the 30 cup number. So why 30 cups? Well, if you bounce in and around a lot of alliances, it does not take long to find a member that only has 30 cups. Now, you will sometimes find somebody who has less than 30, but from a point of measurement, 30 cups is ideal because you can find 30 cups pretty easily. Why? I have no idea, but anything less than 30 it's a challenge to find unless it's 0. You can find a lot of players with 0. So the first data point that I took was on October 29th, 2020. Now, since I took that first screenshot back in October, I've been taking other screenshots from time to time. I try to do it once a week, but I'm not terribly consistent with doing it every single week or at the same time, that kind of thing. It's just sort of when I think about it, if I'm out merking or if I just have a minute, I'll go in and search in alliances and see if I can find somebody with 30 cups. And I'm going to talk about the data from last fall at the end of this because there's something really odd that happened with that data. So let's just start from 2021. The first data point that I got in 2021 was on January 10th, and I logged 2.6 million players to 2,674,080 players that had 30 cups, or excuse me, had more than 30 cups because the 30 cup players were tied at this place. So that's the place they're in. So -1 tells you how many people are ahead of them. What this number does not tell us is how many people actually have 30 cups, because everyone with 30 cups is tie, so they'd have the exact same amount. And I will get to that in a minute because I was able to decipher at least a general ballpark of how many people might be at 30 cups. So what is this telling us? It's telling us how many people have in the last 24 hours participated in raid enough that they at least have 30 cups. Yes, there's going to be a handful of people that have less than 30. They're pretty rare to find. And yes, there will be people who overnight lost all their cups and they haven't woke up yet and started playing. The point is that this is a small number, which I'll define in a moment, but the 30 cup number is a consistent number that we can look at over time. So, you know, yes, you can account for some fluctuation on a daily level depending on what's going on in the world and in life. Maybe a few more or less people log in here or there. But as you will see, there's a number of data points throughout 2021 that shows the direction that this ranking of players has been going. And this number is one, or the rate of decline is the number that I have concern with. All right, now for the smart people out there that are into numbers and rankings and following things, they might be quick to say, wait a minute. This is just people with 30 cups. There could be another 3 million people behind them that have less than 30 cups and greater than 0. If you look at somebody who has 0 cups, they have no ranking. They're just not even on the chart. So you have to have at least some cups to be on the ranking. So I did think of that, and I took 2 other data points to give an idea how many people are behind the 30 cuppers. So on March 7th, we had the 2.64 million people at 30 cups, and I found somebody who actually just had 3 cups, so almost no cups, at the same time, and they were at 2.65. So it was only about 6,000 people between 3 cups and 30 cups. So again, not a statistically significant number in any kind of meaningful way. I did take one other data point that I can show here on May 10th. There were 2.535 million players at 30 cups and 2.498 at 1 cup. I found somebody with 1 cup, and that difference was 36,000. So again, we're not talking millions of players that are hiding out below 30 cups. It's the largest I found was this 36,000 difference. So in the grand scheme of millions of players, a fluctuation of 6,000 to 40,000 that might be below 30 cups but active isn't going to drastically change my feelings about the 30 cup number. So anyway, that's how I landed on the 30 cup number. That's the number I've been monitoring. If you have different perspectives or ideas on the relevance of this 30 cup and what it's telling us, I would love to hear other vantage points on what all this might mean. At this point, let's jump in and actually look at some data. So let me go ahead and show you this graphic here. This is the log for 2021 of the players that have 30 cups. And again, this has been taken sporadically. It's not consistently on a defined interval of specific days. I do have a chart here that I'll show you the actual numbers with the number of days in between, and the last column is showing you the average per day that the cups have either gone down or gone up between the 2 data points that I captured. As you can see throughout this year, there's only been 3 days, and they were early on, not 3 days, but 3 data points where over the period measured that the ranking of the person with 30 cups popped up a little bit. It's not been too significant. There was the one there on March 7th where over a period of 10 days it popped up 6,000, so about 620 a day. Got to the 30 cup level, but that is quite quickly erased by every data point after that. Now, what's interesting is I ran the numbers a few weeks ago on the rate of decline and said, hey, if we do this rate of decline and it stays consistent, which it wouldn't, but let's just say it stayed consistent, how long would it take for the membership to run out? Presumably the death of Empires and Puzzles. And it was about 4.5 years, which sounds great. That's out in the future. A lot can change between now and then. But what's more intriguing to me is I ran the data this morning based on the current attrition rate, and we're now looking at under 3 years, like 2.5 to 2.7 years, I think it was that I did the math on. 2.78 years. So we lost a year plus just in the last few weeks with the increase in the rate of attrition. So that is troubling to me because that indicates that the rate of decline is increasing. And if that continues, then you got to wonder what's going to happen with the game. So is the game dying or is it flatlining? So there are all these people that play. The question is, how committed are they? Are they committed enough that's going to keep the game going? It's obviously a financial enterprise. It's a business, so they're going to want dollars coming in the door. So will the game stay afloat as long as that 1.5 million stays consistent? Or are we looking at the beginning of the end in the next year or 2 years, somewhere in that range, if this decline keeps continuing? with all the new content and all of the new features, I can't imagine that is even remotely possible to um, bring in new participants that are willing to spend on the level that would keep the game running. I know when I came to the game 2.5 years ago, I felt way behind the advanced players, and I've spent a lot of money and a lot of time catching up and now surpassing most of the player base as far as my player level goes and roster goes and things like that. And I'm finally at the point where I want to be, and I'm competitive, and I'm in the end game, if you will. I don't have anything else to build. I have plenty of weapons. I'm in a good place. But if I was starting today with Empires and Puzzles and had an idea of the scope of the mountain in front of me, I can't say that I would jump in and spend on the level that I've spent on either time or money. And I think that explains why the game's not growing. I just do not see that it's going to be an option to increase the number of players that are out there, not to any statistically significant number. So the question is, are we satisfied with the 1.5 million and we feel comfortable still spending our money on this game and continuing playing? Or are we troubled that we're losing uh, several thousand players every single day? And how long is that going to last? So I'm a little concerned about that. Now, I did say at the beginning, and hope that you made it this far into the video, there's a troubling number that I want to discuss that I can't explain. All right, so to get to the troubling number that I'm very confused by and don't know how to interpret, um, we have to go to the very first screenshot. As you may have noted, I've only been talking about the 2021 numbers. So the first screenshot that I took back on October 29th, there was actually 4.9 million players at 30 cups. That's right, 4.9 million. And when I looked at the data, I took a couple of screenshots of 30 cuppers between October 29th and December 27th, and it declined from 4.935 down to 4.8 on December 27th. And then I didn't take anything between the 27th and the 10th of January, so the week of New Year's and a little after that, I just wasn't concentrating on logging this kind of data. But somewhere between December 27th and January 10th, 30 cuppers lost 2.17 million players, and they never came back. So for October, November, and December, I was consistently seeing 30 cuppers above 4.8 million. And then after the new year, it dropped to 2.6 million. And that begs the question, where did they go? And that is the number I am stuck on. This is a fact. This is where 30 cuppers were in December. And then this is where they went in January. So, the first thing is, maybe Small Giant went in and cleared out inactive accounts. 2 million inactive accounts that had at least 30 cups. That seems bizarre to me. I don't know how matchmaking for raids works on the very, very low level when you have below 50 cups. And I don't know if it's possible to sit forever at 30. And then, if you're sitting there for 6 months at 30 cups, do they go in and delete the account? That in itself would be troubling to me, that they removed 2+ million accounts. I can't imagine that there was a mass exodus over the holidays that 2 million people just said, you know what, we're done, and we walked away from the game. So I don't know. I don't know how to interpret that 2 point something million. I know maker of another game that has been reaching out to me to get me to promote their game, which I will not be doing. Part of their solicitation keeps indicating that Empires and Puzzles lost 50% of their player base in the last year. So I'm guessing that might be some indication of this number. But if they were dead accounts, I don't know that we actually lost the 2 million players. Yeah, I don't know. I have no way to interpret this. Everything else, I think, can be logically deduced through daily gameplay and looking at the numbers and figuring out what's going on. But that end of December to beginning of January, that 2.1 million players that evaporated from the 30 cup ranks. Uh, and I've seen plenty of people with 0 cups. They didn't get eliminated. So maybe it was just based on number of days inactive. Um, I don't know. Maybe it cleared up server space for them if they got rid of inactive accounts. I don't know. Do anybody have insight? I'd love to hear it. But at any rate, this is the data I've been doing. You all can go crazy just like me and monitor the 30 cup number and see which direction that's going. I have a bad feeling that we're going to be potentially under 2 million or close to under 2 million by the end of this year. I think a pivotal moment for this game is going to be when the 30 cuppers get really close to the 1.5 million that play the game weekly in the raid tournaments and the ninja towers and things like that. I don't know that we're going to come back from that if those two meet or cross over. So as always, what's your thoughts and feedback? What's going on with Empires and Puzzles? Is it flatlining and it'll stay around for years and years and years with the consistent player base of that 1.5 million? Or do we need to be worried that the game is dying with the rate of attrition of these 30 cuppers? Love to hear your feedback. Post it in the comments. Let's talk about the future of this game.